What's going on, guys? The SSN back again with another video. Thank you for stopping by, and I hope that you're having an awesome day so far. Before we get going, if you guys could do me a massive favor and subscribe to the channel down below, I would appreciate that so much. And also like this video so that it reaches out to people who are interested in the Dolphins just like you. So this video is easy, not going to be too long. I kind of just want to walk you guys through how free agency has gone so far with the Dolphins. I'm going to walk you through the trades, the signs, and the re-signings, and how I feel like we've done so far. And then just kind of my overall opinion on what we could still maybe focus on to improve this team further. So first of all, first thing that the Dolphins did in this free agency period is we made a trade, and it is my favorite move that we've done so far. And we traded for Mckinney. We traded for him and a 7th rounder in exchange for Shaq Lawson and a 6th rounder. Now, I made a specific video, just a single video for this move. If you guys have not seen that, I'll put it right above, right here, if you want to check it out, get my opinions, and then come back to this video. That would be great. But I think this was a phenomenal move for the Dolphins. I think we addressed a key position of need, and we traded essentially a situational down linebacker for an every down Mike linebacker, which we desperately needed. So I am absolutely 100% on board with that trade. Great move for Miami. He is due $7.5 million this coming season and then $9 million the following year. The Dolphins are actually in the middle of restructuring that deal though. So that's one thing that's definitely good about this deal for Mckinney is we're restructuring that to make it more beneficial for the team. And Greer thus far has been really, really good with the financial side of managing this team. So that's move number one. Move number two that the Dolphins made, I'm looking down at my notebook here, so sorry if I'm not looking straight at the camera the whole time. But move number two, re-signing linebacker Vince Beagle. Also a solid move. Probably my favorite signing that we've done thus far. Getting Vince Beagle back on the team is super, super good. He is a very low-risk, high-reward guy. Signed him to 1 year, $850,000. So we're putting out essentially nothing for the guy, and he could definitely have an impact on this team, even with limited minutes. I think he is a guy who makes an impact on the field and gives you value for the time that he plays. Can be an impact player. He can provide pressure on the quarterback. I just think he does plenty of things well enough that it's worth having him on the team. So I'm happy with that. He's a depth guy, and he will definitely serve a purpose on this defense. Move number three, we signed tight end slash fullback slash mainly a special teamer, Ethan Carter. He played for the Bengals. Did not do very much in Cincinnati over his time offensively, but he definitely made an impact in the special teams unit, and that's really what I think we're signing him for. I don't think he's going to see much of the field with Gesicki, with Smythe, depending on whether we keep a couple other guys. I don't see any space for him offensively to hit the field, but in special teams, he can make an impact. And we did lose Hill, so maybe he can kind of fill that role and become like a gunner for the special teams unit. We'll see. But we signed him to a 3-year, $8.25 million contract. Some of that's with his incentives. We don't know the guarantees. I haven't read up on all of the terms of that deal yet. But I would assume the 8.25 is not going to be the max, or is not going to be the guaranteed money that he makes. That's probably the max value for that contract. So all in all, I'm not really that disappointed. If that was all guaranteed, I think that would be high. But I am assuming that that's with incentives. So not too bad. And Greer has been great at structuring contracts to be able to cut ties with those players if they're not working out and not having to eat a lot of money in the process. So just keep that in mind. If Ethan Carter isn't a guy that we want to keep around for that full 3-year term, he's probably in a position, or we're probably in a position where we could cut him and not spend a whole lot in the process. Let's see. Move number four. We signed our backup quarterback. Again, another move that I made one video specifically on this acquisition. I'll put it up above again, so check that video out and then come back to this one. But we signed Jacobi Brissett. Why do I always do that? I say Jacobi Brissett because I'm stupid. That's why. But we signed Jacobi Brissett, 1 year, $5 million. It's a great deal, especially considering how much some of the backup quarterbacks in the league have been demanding in terms of money. You see guys like Marcus Mariota earning over $10 million, Tyrod Taylor earning over $12 million. So to get a quarterback who has played well in the past with Indianapolis, who has experience, who has stepped in New England as well, and who's learned from Andrew Luck and Tom Brady. That's a valuable guy for the team. If he is going to back up Tua and play that like Ryan Fitzpatrick role, I think he's a really good person to do that because he can pass on some of that knowledge that he's learned from two great quarterbacks, two potential Hall of Famers, I think guaranteed Hall of Famers in my opinion. But he's also a quarterback where if Tua's struggling a bit, he can come in and make an impact on the team. He can provide valuable minutes. So I think that's a great move for Miami. You don't lose anything in that deal. $5 million is, peanuts for a guy like him. So I'm happy with that signing. Really good move for Miami. Next up, we signed a backup running back, Malcolm Brown, played with the Rams for a little while. 1 year, about $2 million. So this one is where I kind of come into the position of, I probably would have rathered somebody else. Now, I don't have any problems with Malcolm Brown. I think he's a decent running back. He's a backup. He is bigger than our guys, and that's what I do like about him is Myles Gaskin, Salvon Ahmed, Matt Breida, even if he stays on the team. Those are smaller, faster, shiftier guys who aren't really inside type of runners. So Malcolm Brown kind of mixes it up a little bit. He's about 5'11", 220 or so. So, he's bigger. He's more of a bull rusher. He kind of just knocks you over, but he's not super slow either. So I like him. I think he complements our guys well. And if we draft a running back, I think he'll be a fine backup. The problem that I have is that there was Marlon Mack also on the market at the very same time. Marlon Mack, I think, probably would have demanded more money for signing outside of Indianapolis, but he re-signed with them for the same deal. 1 year, $2 million. And he had a monster season, not last year, but the year before. And, probably would have had about the same type of year this year if he hadn't torn his Achilles. So Marlon Mack signing for the same exact deal, potential starter in the NFL, I think has proven himself. I think would have been a much more valuable acquisition than Malcolm Brown. But I say all that, and at the same time, I'm not the GM of the team. So, I kind of have to take it on the chin and, trust the process here. So Malcolm Brown is the guy that we go after, and it's fine. He'll be a fine backup. Whoever we wind up drafting, I think that's what the direction the Dolphins are going to go in. Whoever we wind up drafting will be the #1 guy. And Brown, Gaskin, Ahmed, those guys can kind of fill in from there when needed. Next up on the list, Dolphins signed cornerback Justin Coleman. 1 year, let me find it here. I can't even read my handwriting. 1 year, $2.75 million. This was an interesting pickup, a really interesting pickup because he is a slot cornerback. And why that's interesting is because we drafted Mckinney in the first round last year. And we also have Nick Needham on the team. What Justin Coleman is going to do is come in and immediately force heavier competition between those two guys. He is immediately going to make them compete harder, make them, really have to step up their game, or they're going to lose their job to him. So I think this is a fine signing for Miami. Worst case scenario in this whole thing, in my opinion, is Nick Needham and Mckinney can't play up to his level. And even in that situation, that's fine because we get a better, more talented, more qualified slot who is also a veteran. He's been around for a little while. So I'm happy with that signing. I know a lot of people were confused. I think it brings value to the team because it'll create that absolute necessity for, stepping your game up between Needham and Mckinney. All right, next up on the list, we sign Adam Butler, defensive tackle, played in New England, familiar with Brian Flores, just another New England guy to bring into the team. Signed him on a 2-year, $9 million deal. He's a defensive tackle. He is a big boy, 6'5", I think like 320. He's a big dude. The value to him, to me, he's a depth guy. The value to him, in my opinion, is that he can get after the passer a little bit. Last year, if I'm not mistaken, sacked the quarterback 4 or 5 times, and he's done 2 other seasons similar to that where he can provide some pressure right up the middle. I think that's valuable. That's good to have on your team. Not super expensive. $9 million is with incentives, so most likely probably won't be that $9 million. But that's fine. Provide a little bit more depth, a little bit more competition. There's nothing wrong with that. And he's not expensive, so that's totally cool signing Adam Butler. I'm happy with that move. The last one, our final move that we've made so far is signing Robert Foster. He is a receiver, played with the Washington football team, hasn't done anything in 2 years. His first year, if I'm not mistaken, in the NFL, he, I think, caught the ball maybe 40 times for 500 or 600 yards. That was his best season 3 years ago. The last 2 seasons have really not been much of anything. So having him on the team, really just a depth, potential rotational guy, maybe even like a practice squad type player. I don't really know. In terms of Robert Foster, I did not know very much about him at all until I kind of pulled up where he's been and how he's played. But what I do know is he's 6'2" and he ran a 4.43, if I'm not mistaken, in the combine. So he's a taller guy with speed. So I think there's value to that. The athleticism is a valuable thing, and we don't have a lot of bigger guys who are actually fast. We just have a lot of big guys who can go up and get the ball. So I think that's valuable. I'm fine with that. No terms on the deal have been released yet, so I will update you guys in our Instagram as soon as the deal surfaces and we can see the terms. So that's what we've done so far, and I know it took a long time to get through that. I'm going to put my notebook down. I'm sorry that it took a while, but we have done a handful of things. It's just not on the big, flashy names that I know that a lot of Dolphins fans have been looking for. Coming into free agency, a lot of people wanted Aaron Jones, wanted Joe Thuney, wanted Corey Linsley. That was me. I wanted Corey Linsley for sure, but also wanted Juju or Kenny Golladay. And when you put all those guys together, that's just a mountain of money to pay out in free agency. I am not opposed to how we're doing things this year. I think it's been smart, saving money, loading up for the draft, not jeopardizing our future in terms of kind of handcuffing ourselves in the cap. You look at teams like the Patriots, who went out in day 1 and day 2, 2 days worth of time, I believe have $250 million combined for free agency this year. And if you look at the last, I think, 10 years of the New England Patriots off seasons, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that I'm right on this one. The last decade of the Patriots free agencies, they have spent about $350 million. And in 2 days, 2 days worth of time, they have signed over 2/3 of that amount. That's craziness. That's a massive amount of money to be shelling out. And the thing about that is, if you don't pan out, if that team doesn't make a deep playoff push, you've really handcuffed yourself in a bad way because you have so much money wrapped up in a team that isn't winning. So I applaud Brian Flores and Chris Grier for the way that they've handled this, not going out and doing things that Tannenbaum would do, you know, going and signing the Ndamukong Suhs of the world for quarterback money, not going out and signing Mike Wallace for a ridiculous contract. They're sitting back and they're waiting. They're waiting on the dominoes to fall a little bit, see who gets cut, see who's on the trade block, see who's still there a little bit later in free agency, which means we could probably get them on a budget deal. I'm not opposed to the way that they're handling this, but I do think there are a couple of things that we still need to focus on in free agency specifically. Number one would be wide receiver, and number two would be center, in my opinion. I think in that order. Wide receiver, we still have Kenny Golladay, still have Juju, still have Will Fuller, still have Curtis Samuel. There are options out there for Miami. It's just a matter of who they really prefer. I think out of those four, I would prefer Juju or Curtis Samuel. I think both Kenny Golladay and Will Fuller are both outside guys, and we have some outside guys. So I would prefer a slot weapon, and then we can also address some more in the draft. So between Curtis Samuel and Juju, I think those are the best options for Miami. Those are the two guys that I would prefer over anybody else. It's just, comes down to the money. If they're going to be guys who break the bank, we're seeing in this free agency period, Brian Flores and Chris Grier might not give as much of a look to them because they want that money that realistically they probably can't have because of the cap right now. Second is center. Center is a super important position. We saw Ted Karras sign with the New England Patriots, 1 year, $4 million. That means that David Andrews is not going to be there anymore. David Andrews is out there. He is ready to sign with the team. I think he's just taking it slow and figuring out what's my best option. What is my best chance at success? Who's going to pay me the most? What's the best fit? I think Miami would be a fine fit for him. Knows Brian Flores. We have a young and upcoming offensive line who he could train and help, develop and mature a little bit. I think that would be a fine fit. I'd be really happy with David Andrews, but like I said, it's up to the money. It's up to how Brian Flores and Chris Grier, how aggressively do they want to pursue someone who's 28 years old, who is probably going to demand a bigger contract, because at this point, he is the #1 center on the market. So that's what we've done in free agency. Those are our options. Defensive end is still a need, but I think too many guys have come off the board at this point in free agency that I wouldn't want to go out and sign a Jadeveon Clowney to a bigger deal. That's just not worth it to me. Hassan Reddick is gone, although I thought he was going to get a bigger deal, so I wasn't too interested. I think the draft is the way to focus on defensive end, specifically for the Dolphins. But those are the options. I think Brian Flores and Chris Grier are just waiting for the dominoes to fall. They're playing this one smart. I'm not going to shell out a ton of money. And when I do, I'm going to spend it on guys. I would rather sign a volume of guys who are good athletes, good NFL players, than break my bank and spend all my cap on 2, maybe 3 superstar players and, really lock our cap up for the next couple of years. So I'm fine with how they've handled it. But in order for me to stay fine, they need to sign somebody of value. They need to sign somebody of significant value, whether that's a Juju, a Curtis Samuel, maybe a Will Fuller, David Andrews would be great. So I think we're still a couple of pieces away from this being a really successful free agency period, but we'll see what happens. It's always a process. And for you guys, I just ask you, trust the process. These guys are in the positions that they are in for a specific reason. They're the GM and the coach and the staff, the advisors, all those guys are in that position for a reason. They know football. They know the Dolphins. They know the NFL better than anybody. They probably forget more about, football than I will ever learn in my life. So you got to give them credit. You have to understand that this is all a process, and we're still entering year 3 of a rebuild. Last year, we doubled our wins from the first year of a rebuild. Trust the process. These guys know what they're doing, and they're good at it. So guys, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for watching the video. Please like and subscribe. Do me a massive favor and do that. And if you're interested, check out the Instagram in the description. It's at the SSN Official, and that's where you can find daily NFL content. I take 0 days off. I am always on there posting tons of content. So check that out if you'd like to. And then I'll catch you guys very soon with some more content, probably with some signings and stuff like that. I'm limited in my schedule to the night times now. I have a early morning job, so I get home maybe about 5 o'clock every day. So I will be updating you guys as much as I possibly can. But if it's not on YouTube, it'll definitely be on Instagram. So you guys have a great night. I'll catch you very soon with some more content. Take it easy. And as always, fins up.